in the city of Compton to do our part for Earth Day 2024.
We are KBLA Talk 1580, caring about the climate, caring about the community, cleaning up Compton.
Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, y'all. Look out. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Listen to me.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley, and I'm glad about it. We are now in our second hour of today's program, and the first hour was insightful in a variety of ways. I look forward to some more insights in this hour, now that we are joined by the former Homeland Security Secretary during the Obama era, Jeh Johnson, who is back with us to offer his assessment, I hope, of all current threats, both foreign and domestic. Secretary Johnson, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Tavis. Thank you for having me back on your show. I appreciate the Edwin Starr lead-in. And I also appreciated your reference to what happened in baseball history 50 years ago yesterday. Growing up, I was an avid Hank Aaron fan. I followed literally every at-bat in the 1972-73 season. And I know you're a student of history. You recall that he tied the record, the season opener on April 4th, 1974, at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Pitch off Jack Billingham. And Henry, being the man he was, I remember this, he called out the Cincinnati Reds that day. Even though it was a lot to celebrate, he called them out for failing to acknowledge that that day was the 6th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of man Henry Aaron was.
No, he was an amazing man, not just a great player. I've said many times he was a more an amazing person than he was even a great player. I get goosebumps at times. I've said this, countless times, I suspect, in the course of my career, particularly as these persons transition and from us. But I feel humbled and grateful every day when I think about all the persons who I've had a chance to converse with, to interview in public and in private conversations, to learn more about their backstory, to call some of them friends. There are any number of photos I have in my office of Hank Aaron, Henry Aaron, and yours truly. And in one of these photos, which is probably my favorite, somebody captured me sitting next to Hank Aaron one day, and you can just look at my eyes and the way I am staring at Hank Aaron. At that point, I knew him already. I'd spent time with him, had gotten to know him. We were in Atlanta for an event together. He lived in Atlanta, of course. I was there for an event with him. And he's looking off into the distance, but I am staring at him as a grown man, like I would have had I met him as a kid, because he was one of my heroes. And so this picture is an amazing photo of me just staring at Hank Aaron as I'm sitting right next to him. And then in this building, of course, this program is syndicated across the country, heard in markets everywhere. But I'm based in L.A., as I often say. I'm pleased to be at my home station of KBLA here in Los Angeles. But in this building that I've owned for 20-some years, where this studio is housed, when we did the deal for the station, we moved it into my building to make it easier for me because I'm too lazy. I didn't want to drive across town. I want to walk down the hallway. So we moved the station into my building so I could literally walk down the hallway to in my studio every day. But down the hall from me, where I sit right now, in another room, I had a mural years ago, had a mural painted inside my building of my favorite athletes. My favorite athletes are on that mural.
Yes.
And Hank Aaron is on the mural of my favorite athletes. There's Julius Erving. There's Hank Aaron. There's, of course, Muhammad Ali. There is Wilma Rudolph. There's Arthur Ashe. These are there's Magic Johnson. These are just a handful of some of my favorite athletes. But Hank Aaron was an amazing guy. And to your point, we just celebrated I keep saying celebrated, celebrated his life and legacy, but we commemorated the 56th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination just days ago. So,
Yes.
so for you to tell this story
Yes.
about Hank Aaron tying the record on April 4, and at that moment, it was the 6th anniversary of his assassination. Here we are now
Correct.
talking on this program, and we're commemorating the 56th anniversary of his
That's
assassination.
correct.
That's
That's correct.
that gives me goosebumps, Secretary Johnson. Gives me goosebumps.
Well, if you'll allow me one more Hank Aaron story.
Sure.
Growing up, he was my idol. I was 16 years old when he broke the record. I loved playing baseball. I fashioned myself a future Major League Baseball player, though I could never hit a curveball and I didn't have the throwing arm, so that wasn't going to happen. But the thing that I admired about Henry Aaron was he was a strong, dignified, low-key, no-drama black man.
Mm-hmm.
He just went and did his job every day.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, he passed Willie in the home run race for the all-time record. And everybody looked up and said, hey, who's this guy, Henry Aaron? And he's been, consistently hitting 40, 44 home runs a year. And all of a sudden, everybody notices him. Because he was no drama. He just went after went out there and hit the ball day after day. A couple years later, I was a freshman at Morehouse College. This would probably have been 1975, 76. He had been traded to Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the off season, and I was out on the street in Atlanta watching the homecoming parade. And I just happened to glance at the other people on the street watching the homecoming parade in the neighborhood in southwest Atlanta, and I look up, and there is Henry Aaron, standing there all by himself in his dungarees. Nobody is talking to him. Nobody is noticing him. He blended right in, and he didn't need the recognition.
Yeah.
And he was just a low-key, dignified black man who didn't need didn't need autographs, didn't need photos. He was content to just blend right into that crowd in southwest Atlanta in 1975.
Yeah.
And I was so struck by that. He was my hero, standing 10 feet away from me.
Yeah.
So anyway.
For those listening across the country, the reason why we got into this conversation is that we were playing some news here locally in Los Angeles about a statue that they are unveiling in Cooperstown, the Baseball Hall of Fame, honoring Hank Aaron all these decades after his breaking the record set by Babe Ruth. And so Secretary Johnson heard that news bit about this ceremony forthcoming and commented on that, and that's how we got into a tribute to Hank Aaron. Didn't know we were going to go there, but I never know where this show is going to go. That's why I just love being organic, being in the moment, and following my guest as I do every hour. I'll continue to follow Secretary Johnson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos, and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze fruit-on-the-go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis.
Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of former Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson right now on Tavis Smiley. Secretary Johnson, I am a student of history, as are you, and I'm also a little nerdy. And so I was thinking during that break about April 4. You got me going now. You got me thinking about April 4. So that date is significant in Black history for a lot of reasons. Michael Eric Dyson was our guest on this program, as I said, on April 4 this year when we commemorated the 56th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination in Memphis. So we know that King is assassinated on April 4. Here you come telling us today, reminding us today that Hank Aaron tied the record of Babe Ruth on April 4. And I hadn't thought about that until you said it. We know that April 4, as I mentioned on our program days ago, is the birth date of not just Maya Angelou, but also Muddy Waters. Both of these American icons are born on April 4. We know that, and I hadn't really thought about this, Michael Eric Dyson, who's a fan of Beyonce and Jay-Z, and while he was on the program the other day, we were talking about Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album, since you're a music lover. So Beyonce and Jay-Z were married on April 4. so
that one I did not know.
I hadn't thought about that either until Dyson said it. So my point is that there's a whole lot of Black history connected to that date of April 4. And so you, again, that's the nerd in me. You got me thinking about April 4. So I'm jotting down all the things I can recall about what happened on April 4. So anyway, I digress on that. But I'm glad you made me think about April 4 and all of the Black history that we celebrate. As we commemorate, again, the life and legacy of Dr. King, but there's a lot of stuff to celebrate about that day, and so I thank you for kind of making me think about that. All right, let me move let me move forward. There's a lot I want to cover with you in the hour that we have, and I'm glad we had that moment of just sort of that moment of Black joy, if I can put it that way, that Black joy moment, because now I want to get a little less joyful, if I can put it that way, in the rest of this conversation, because there's a lot of news to talk about. And you don't talk to the former Secretary of Homeland Security and think the conversation is going to be a bed of roses. So
correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about some tough stuff. Let me just ask you a broad question, and again, I will follow you. When you have been the Secretary of Homeland Security, and you see. And you're watching in the news every day, paying attention as you do to all the news that we're following here. On a day like today, you have Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, saying that there's no evidence. The U.S. sees no evidence at this point of genocide on the part of Israel in Gaza. Those are his comments today, and everybody's talking about that. Bibi Netanyahu says today that they are going into Rafah anyway, never mind the protestations of many. They're going into Rafah anyway. The U.S. continues to arm Israel. And I'm not trying to make you political. What I'm driving toward here is when you have been as a Black man, Morehouse educated, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, and you see all of these things happening, does it put you on, pardon the phrase here, high alert for any blowback that we might get domestically because of the way we are playing this game internationally, if that makes sense at all?
The simple answer, Tavis, is yes. I have to believe that since October 7th, our Homeland Security forces and personnel have been on heightened alert as a result of what's happening. The attack on October 7th and the aftermath, the manner, frankly, in which the IDF has conducted its counterterrorism operations in Gaza has turned the world upside down politically. And it has reverberated everywhere. It's reverberated here in New York City. It's reverberated on the campus of Columbia University. It reverberates in just about every political rally you might attend across the United States. And so, and I want to come back to Secretary Austin's point about genocide. I happened to see him at the Pentagon just last week. But when in October, I think it was maybe a week, maybe 10 days after October 7, I gave a speech at UC Irvine, out where you are. And I said that, of course, I deplored the terrorist attack, but said Hamas, this is 10 days after the attack, Hamas is counting on Israel to overreact. And just the way they embed their people underneath hospitals in heavily crowded areas, they were counting on Israel to overreact. And I pointed out that my hope that there are some lessons the IDF, the State of Israel, will learn from our reaction to 9/11. Of course, we lived with Abu Ghraib, we lived with the excesses there, and in a host of other places, and the entire Iraq War, which was started on a false premise that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. But it was in the environment, in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, that the political will existed to launch that war that we didn't have to launch. And I'm afraid that history is repeating itself on a massive scale, and a very focused scale in Gaza. What is happening in Gaza is, I would not definitionally call it genocide. Genocide is the murder of a race of people because of their race. It's a calculated effort to try to eliminate a people because of their race. There have been far, far too many atrocities in Gaza. The IDF has not conducted this operation well. We don't know that they're through yet. And the State of Israel has managed to turn many of its best friends against them, destabilize the entire Middle East, and even its best friend in that part of the world, the United States, is now having to publicly criticize their efforts. And I got to believe there are elements of Hamas that are quite pleased at this turn of events.
So if I hear you correctly, you agree with Secretary Austin's comments today that there is no evidence, the U.S. sees no evidence of genocide in Gaza. So as I hear you, you agree with that assessment?
I wouldn't put it that way. I would say there are mass atrocities. The death toll is staggering. The death toll among children is staggering. Innocent civilians, it's staggering. It does not meet strictly the legal definition of genocide. You can call it a whole lot of other things, Tavis, but it does not neatly fit the definition of genocide.
You called it, you did in fact call it, though, as I heard you, an overreaction, correct?
Very much so, yes.
Okay. All right. Let me unpack that part then. You're entitled to your opinion. You're former Secretary of Homeland Security, so I have you on to express yourself, and you have. But let's
and if I could add, the former senior legal official of the Department of Defense.
Yeah, indeed. I'm glad you added that. So that makes it makes this conversation even more prescient. Your comments, I should say. I may come back to the genocide thing. I want to noodle that just for a second, but let me come to this point you made about the overreaction. So, given how close an ally Israel is to the U.S., so close, in fact, that while the president says one thing out of one side of his mouth, he does something else, and that is to say, and I'm not dogging Joe Biden, I'm just putting facts on the table. He has been pressing him. We keep getting these leaks. We keep getting this commentary out of the White House, but yet we keep sending them weapons to engage and continue what you would call an overreaction. They're doing that with American weapons. So, having said that part, given how close an ally Israel is to us, what do you make of the fact, to your brilliant point earlier, about the lessons that we should have learned from 9/11, that Israel did not learn those lessons watching us? We can't be that close with you not paying attention to what we did, how we screwed up. Why haven't they learned the lessons that we learned from what we did overreacting after 9/11?
Tavis, that's a good question. I cannot crawl into the mind of Prime Minister Netanyahu, nor am I in the Situation Room anymore. So I don't pretend to know all of the intelligence, all of the dynamics of what's going on. It is inexplicable to me, and unfortunately, we have to relearn lessons of history. At least once or twice a generation. The United States itself has had to relearn some of the mistakes of our own history. You go from Vietnam to Afghanistan to Iraq, and we fail to learn from our mistakes and the manner in which we conduct warfare. Gaza is unlike anything that the U.S. military has had to undertake. It's a densely populated urban area for the most part, and the terrorist organizations that Israel seeks to root out are deeply embedded in places like hospitals, apartments, residential space, underground, in tunnels. I would, however, like to believe, knowing them as I do, that if U.S. Special Forces had a similar mission to root out a terrorist organization intending to kill Americans, we would be able to do a more precise surgical job at this. And I want to read the final report or book on just why Israel has conducted itself the way it has in this operation. It's losing world support, which has to matter a lot to them.
While we wait for that book to be written, innocent women and children are being killed every day while that book is being written. So I take your point. Yeah. Let me raise this issue. An issue that we raised in the last hour with our guest, Bhaskar Sankara, who is the president of The Nation magazine. I raised this with him, and I'm reprising it for a particular reason with you, Secretary Johnson.
Sure.
We talked in the last hour about what it means to have black faces in high places. As you well know, because you were one of those black faces in high places as Secretary of Homeland Security, there was a moment, there was a time in this country's history, rather, where black people weren't deemed worthy enough, intelligent enough, talented enough, adroit enough, brilliant enough to be making public policy decisions about foreign policy. You mentioned having gone to Morehouse, so Dr. King comes up in this conversation once again. As you well know, being a student of history, they went after Dr. King, as I said last hour, for his Beyond Vietnam speech, where he called America the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. They told him, and I quote, "Negro, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Foreign policy."
Frankly, some prominent African Americans.
Absolutely. They told him foreign policy is not your purview. I did do a tribute last hour to Ralph Bunche, who was one of those Negroes in high places years ago and did his part back in 1948, again, as you know. But in real time, there are a number of black faces in high places making these decisions, speaking publicly on behalf of our government. I'm thinking, of course, about Lloyd Austin, Department of Defense. I'm thinking about Linda Thomas Greenfield as U.S. Ambassador to the UN. I'm thinking about even our Vice President, Kamala Harris. These are all black folk in high places. You mentioned 9/11, so I say all that to circle back to another black face in a high place, Colin Powell, who you knew well.
I knew you were going to go there.
You knew I was going there, man. You're a mind reader. So
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, so
right.
I got 2 minutes now. We can start this and continue when we come forward. But since you mentioned 9/11 and all the mistakes we made, there was one particular black man who I liked personally, who was at the epicenter of that huge mistake, that overreaction.
Made the case to the
He
UN,
made the case. You got it. He made the case. So I've only got a minute and a half. We can start and continue when we come forward. But start to unpack for me in retrospect how you look at the way that, this is my word, it could be I could be overstating it, the way that Colin Powell was or allowed himself to be exploited in that moment.
Colin Powell was in that moment probably the most credible figure in the Bush administration. And they sent him to the UN to make the case. I remember listening to that speech on my television in my office, listening intently, thinking, now I'm going to finally hear the case from the Secretary of State, Colin Powell, for why we need to go into Iraq. And I remember the reaction I had, is that it? That's all you've got? That's it? And, you know, the stories are that he rolled up his sleeves, he went to the CIA, he said, give me everything you have, and was, you know, not that impressed himself, but like the good soldier he was, he did what the president asked him to do, and I'm sure he probably regretted it toward the end of his life.
Talk more about that when we come forward. Colin Powell, again, as the blackface that had to convince this country and indeed the world why we were going to do what we did after 9/11, and it turned out to be done under false premises. As many have said, those so-called weapons of mass destruction became a weapon of mass distraction, and somebody's still looking for those WMDs. We never found them. But Colin Powell was used in that regard. I raise that only because there are black folk right now in real time who are being used to make this case, and I wonder if, like Colin Powell, near the end of their lives, they will regret the role they played in making a case. You take my point. More when we come forward with the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Jeh Johnson, on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The governor of Maryland is meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill today to discuss funding for the reconstruction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. African-American Governor Wes Moore is lobbying members of Congress to approve funding to help rebuild the bridge and reopen the Port of Baltimore. The federal government has already put up more than $60 million in emergency aid, and President Biden has said the federal government will move heaven and earth to rebuild the bridge as fast as possible. Those eclipse glasses everyone used yesterday still have a purpose by donating them to charity. The group Astronomers Without Borders is accepting donated glasses to send to Africa, Asia, and North and South America for future eclipse events. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. How does 3 months of free electricity and a lifetime of energy savings sound? Well, it's yours when you go solar with Sunlux. Learn more at sunlux.com, sunlux.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
The Lakers have a very important game tonight at home against Golden State, but they're not sure if LeBron and Anthony Davis will be in the lineup. LeBron has the flu. AD has a bruised left eye. The Lakers need to win their final 3 games to have any chance of avoiding the play-in round. The Lakers are 9th in the Western Conference. Golden State is in the final play-in spot at 10th. The Clippers are at Phoenix tonight. The Lakers will be rooting for the Clippers. The Lakers are a game and a half behind Phoenix in the chase for the 6th spot, the final automatic qualifier for the playoffs. UConn is the first school in 17 years to win back-to-back NCAA men's basketball championships. Florida was the last school to do it in 2007. The Angels and Dodgers won yesterday. The Angels' new manager, Ron Washington, has his team in a first-place tie with Texas in the AL West. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
Linking social justice and climate justice all year long. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Spruce up spring at your local Amazon Fresh. Say bye to dust bunnies and hello to sunshine with spring cleaning supplies and outdoor essentials. Start the season right at your local Amazon Fresh grocery store. Find a store near you.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la, it's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me.
So I asked Miles, my board op, to ask Secretary Johnson what song he wanted to come back with. What you may not know, that I do know, some of you know this, Secretary Johnson is a music lover, and not just a music lover, but has his own music program. Yes, he was Secretary of Homeland Security, but he's a music lover. And again, hosts his own program. And so I asked him what song you wanted to come back with. I think I can guess why, but tell me why you chose this track, Secretary Johnson.
Well, I thought it was suitable given our conversation, and I very often open my own show on WBGO in Newark, New Jersey with this very song. Wake up, everybody. And Saturday mornings, once a month, WBGO 88.3 FM in Newark, New Jersey. And I have a lot of fun with the show. I spend way too much time with my playlist, Tavis, trying to select my music. But I often open my show with this song.
Yeah. No, it's a powerful track, and you can't do much better than Theodore Pendergrass.
That's right.
As the lead vocal on that thing.
And
so yeah, I'm sorry.
that's
Go ahead.
right.
Yeah, you were gonna say something?
Coming back to the discussion of Colin Powell.
Sure.
He was a man. He was a war hero, a statesman whose stature and credibility transcended race. I mean, he was not put out there in the UN because he was black. He was put out there because he was Colin Powell. Mm-hmm. And there have been very few black figures in American history whose stature transcended race, Barack Obama being the other example, obviously. And so you're correct that you see more and more black faces in high public office, in positions that, we traditionally did not occupy, like Homeland Security or state or, UN ambassador. And I'd like to think that's progress. Mm-hmm. We're not confined to issues that you associate with black folks. So, we're dealing with national security and all elements of public service now.
Yep, I think you're right about your assessment that in some regards, I do want to push back respectfully. In some regards, I think you're right about the fact that Colin Powell, his position transcended race. Clearly, in some regards, President Obama's stature transcended race. I take your point. And yet, we can't deny the fact that they are still black. And I raise that because there's an old adage. Again, you were Secretary of Homeland Security, so you're in this group as well, man. I ain't leaving you out of this group. You in this group as a black face in a high place. At the end of the day, you're still African American, and at the end of the day, that adage is still true. That when and where you enter, or where we enter, as black faces in high places, when and where we enter, the whole race enters with us. So you may be Secretary of Homeland Security, you may be Defense Secretary, you could be Vice President, you could be the U.S. Ambassador to the UN, you could be any of those positions. And yet at the end of the day, because you are still black, we get judged differently. And so when you're the one making the case for the U.S. in that black skin, there is a price oftentimes that black people writ large end up paying because of your missteps, because of your misstatements, because of your misdeeds, whatever they might be. And so I wonder whether or not you would consider that point of view, even though you argue that their race transcends, You
know who I think of? You got me really candid here, Tavis. You know who I think of when you say all of that is Fannie Willis.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's
yeah.
we can't avoid that. We are just judged differently. We are painted with a broad brush. And the other thing is this: these positions may these high positions may allow you to transcend race in a certain way, but you certainly, again, student history, understand this. The world is full of people of color, and around the world, these people of color are watching people of color speaking for the U.S., making these statements. That's a big deal, Secretary Johnson.
People of color are a majority of the human race, aren't they?
Exactly. That's my point. People are watching people of color in this country, speaking for this country, saying and doing things that they find curious.
Yep. Yet, Tavis, I have to add this.
Sure.
And maybe you've explored this on your show. Maybe you have an answer for me. Yet, Donald Trump appears, if you believe the polls, to be doing better and better among black voters. Why is that?
Yep.
You know, and the thing that galls me, he does not have to win the black vote this election. He just has to get enough of it to make a difference in certain swing states, like Michigan or Pennsylvania. For all of the demagoguery, for all of the Stephen Millers who populated his administration, he may get as much of the black vote as Richard Nixon going back to 1960. I still don't understand that.
It is a conundrum to me as well, and yet because you posed it to me, I figure if I can ask tough questions of you, and you can answer them, if you pose a tough question to me, I'll do my best to answer it. So when we come forward, I'm going to do my best to attempt to answer the provocative question, the perplexing question that Secretary Johnson poses just now. How is that possible? How is it possible that Donald Trump, again, who doesn't have to win the black vote, how is it possible that he can siphon off a sizable or significant number of black votes, maybe as much or more than what Richard Nixon did years ago? Let me do my best to respond to that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt, yeah!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure they'll get you your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt, yeah!
Switch to Jackson Hewitt and we'll beat what you paid last year, even if you filed online.
Yeah!
Ain't nothing to it. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and pay less for tax prep, guaranteed. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Wireless headphones. That'll be $200.
I'll use my Capital One Quicksilver card.
Now that's a hit. You used the Capital One Quicksilver card, which makes you the hero of every purchase. With Quicksilver, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere.
I wanted running music, but unlimited 1.5% cash back is pretty heroic.
Good instincts. Every hero needs a theme song. The Capital One Quicksilver card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting and waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
All right, Secretary Johnson, you put I thought you were my friend, man. That question is a pretty impossible question.
Well, they just said your show is more honesty than you can handle, so there you go, Tavis.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, you're hearing the promos. Now I got to live up to that promo. More honesty you can handle. Well, let me give you some honesty then, as I see it. And again, let me be very clear about two things. I do not speak for black folk, and then like to meet at my house every Sunday and give me the script for the week. That's not how this works. Number one, so I don't speak for black people writ large. Number one, and number two, you and I clearly are simpatico on Donald Trump. I ain't got to even say that. We are absolutely lockstep on the lunacy of this Trump campaign and the man himself. That said, these are things I've heard routinely and consistently over this electoral season that may help you understand better the issue that you raised. One, in no particular order, it ties back to these black faces in high places we were just talking about. When you continue to see black faces in high places, but the imperialistic policy of this government vis-a-vis foreign policy does not change, that's a problem. That's what we were just talking about that. You got all these black people in these high positions, but the policy of the U.S. government with regard to Israel specifically and other issues remains unchanged, then it starts to make you question the party in power. Because you got black people there, but the policy ain't changing. That's number one. Number two, this administration, the Biden administration, I think has done an admirable job of stewarding the economy, 39 straight months of job growth. I can make the case better than they can. Trust me. They're not as good as I am in making their own case. I say that with no humility. But at the same time, there are things this administration failed to get done that do matter to a significant slice of black people. They failed to get meaningful voting rights legislation passed. They failed to get meaningful police reform passed. I'll stop there. There are other things they failed at, and there are reasons for that, but it has not been as progressive an administration as some would like. Number three, these disparities that exist between black folk and white folk in this country. We discussed this with economist William Darity out of Duke yesterday. Joe Biden advanced this notion in his recent State of the Union address that the gap between black and white wealth was at its lowest in history. Well, that's not really true, as we learned yesterday talking to Professor Darity on this program. So this stubbornness of these disparities make you wonder why you keep doing the same thing the same way. You know that adage, that insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result. So if you keep voting for Democrats every year and the same stuff keeps happening, these numbers don't move, that makes some people question the efficacy of not just the system, but of voting for Democrats. And finally, and I'll shut up and let you respond when we come forward in our remaining minutes since you asked me this question. And this again, more honesty you can handle. You worked in the Obama administration, so but it's just, I'm laying the facts out. The numbers are, the data is incontrovertible. Black people still lag far behind in every single leading economic indicator category, even after the Obama era. Now, I'm not naive. You don't fix all this in 8 years. I get that. But the reality is the reality that black folks still lag far behind in every single leading economic indicator category, even after 8 years of the first black president. Those are just 4 issues that I hear consistently in conversation with a variety of people about why people are just a little uneasy in this particular moment in American history. That's my answer. It's the best I can do. We'll let Secretary Johnson respond when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
That was another way. I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Secretary Johnson, you asked me a tough question, and again, I don't speak for black people, and God knows Donald Trump is the last person I want to see back in the White House, but you asked a legitimate question, and I tried to give you some answers that I've been hearing, at least your thoughts.
I agree with everything you said. Plus, historically, the black vote in this country, ever since about 1964, has been a block vote that has voted Democratic, 90%, 95%, the most monolithic vote in American history. That was, as time progresses, as time passes, that was bound to change as you see more diversity of thought. And, given our economic conditions, and, when a black president was elected in 2008, that did not end poverty, did not end black poverty, did not end segregation. It did not end police shootings of innocent black men.
Nope.
It takes more than one presidency to accomplish all of that, more than one attorney general, more than one black secretary of DHS. But, we've become susceptible to the message, what have you got to lose, which is what Trump said in 2016. And, my answer to that is let's not be fooled.
Yeah.
Let's see what this man truly represents and some of his rhetoric, policies. As long as the Democrats in the White House, there's, the black community has a voice in the White House.
Yep. No, I wouldn't.
And has an ear in the White House.
I wouldn't argue that.
They're not going to solve every problem.
No,
however.
I wouldn't argue that. I mean, we can be heard. The question is whether or not they do anything once they hear you. But we get an audience. We get an audience with the White House to make our case. Then the question is again, what do they do? Let me ask you. I got 2 minutes left. Let me ask you right quick. What most scares you about Donald Trump? Again, you are the former Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yes.
With regard to that issue, what most scares you about what you keep hearing coming out of Donald Trump's mouth?
What most scares me, of course, is the rhetoric, the fascist rhetoric, frankly. And in a second Trump presidency, you will not have a Jim Mattis or a John Kelly or a Rex Tillerson, responsible individuals who serve because they want to serve their country, because Donald Trump will not want to hire those people and they will not want to work for him. It's going to be Stephen Miller times 10. And that really, really frightens me, populating his administration if he's elected.
Yep. Let me close on this note. The question that Secretary Johnson asked me that I tried to respond to as best I could, given what I hear sitting in this chair and the conversations that I conduct every day and the conversations I have when I meet people on the streets about this presidential election cycle. That question is better put to one Cornel West, and I will put that question to him tomorrow when he's our lead guest. You probably know by now, it's all in the news. The statement has gone forward. The announcement has gone forward, I should say. Cornel West will announce his vice presidential running mate on this program tomorrow. You all know he's running as an independent for president, and there are people who think that's a good idea and folks think it's a horrible idea. People who think the timing is great, folks think it's horrible timing to be running as an independent, but he will make his case tomorrow. But more importantly, or as importantly, he will do so with his vice presidential running mate, who he will announce on this program tomorrow in our first hour. His running mate will be with him. So we'll get a chance to talk to both of them once we discover who it is tomorrow in the first hour of this program. That said, for now, we thank Secretary Jeh Johnson, former Secretary of Homeland Security, for this great conversation and for playing that great music on an amazing station in Newark that I love very dearly. Secretary Johnson, good to have you on. All the best to you, sir.
Always a pleasure to be on your show, Tavis. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from anything ranging from bribery to fraud connected to City Hall. Yesterday's total solar eclipse is over.